All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining again tonight. This is Let's Talk Health Ed tonight with Jason and Tanner, kind of a spin-off of Let's Talk Phys Ed. My name is Jason Steele. I am your host. With me, as always, Tanner Roast. Tanner, how's it going tonight?
Good. What was that song? We were playing some song from Chicago. Is that because of Scott?
It's
all right.
Chicago. I didn't know if anybody would pick up on it or not.
At first I started hearing that, I'm like, what are you doing?
That's amazing that you know what that is.
I had no idea.
Tanner knows.
You don't know how many times I've listened to that soundtrack.
Oh, man. So we are like super excited for these two here joining us tonight. We've got Melanie Lynch and Scott Todnem. I had to ask how to pronounce the name. I said it right, correct, Scott?
Oh, yeah, you got it.
Perfect, I've got it. And they're like health ed, right? So we always say, let's talk phys ed, and we haven't had too many health ed teachers on, but here we go. We've got two of the best, so we're excited to have them. Are you two, like, first of all, let's get to know you two. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? What do you teach? Mel, go first. You said you were going to wait for Scott. I'm throwing you under the bus. You're going first.
Well, I'm going to throw you back under the bus because I don't know who Mel is, but I'm assuming you're talking.
Every time we talk and every time we see each other, I say, Melanie, can I call you Mel?
And I say, no, thank you. No, thank you.
I think you told me last time, yes, I could.
Oh, no, I never tell anybody they can. But anyway, my name is Melanie Lynch, and I teach health and physical education. I'm in my third year teaching 2 phys ed classes, which is challenging every single day. Talk about going out of your comfort zone, falling down steps, losing teeth. That's me teaching phys ed, but the growth is amazing. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and oh my gosh, I play roller derby. I'm an open national trainer, co-author of comprehensive health education textbook, and I love presenting anywhere, everywhere, sharing ideas, talking health, talking phys ed, and I'm really honored to be with Scott Todnem tonight because he's the reigning National Health Teacher of the Year, so great guy, and you can never go wrong when you get around a bunch of people who talk health ed. So I'm looking forward to this evening.
Yes, and thank you so much for being here. Scott, how about you?
Well, thanks, Melanie. Hello. Hey, Jason. Hey, Tanner. Thanks for having us both on. I am Scott Todnem, and I'm out in the Chicago suburbs. I'm in 19 years of teaching health ed at the middle school level. So I have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And besides teaching, I've gone through a bunch of things like coaching. I coached for a long time, the running sports. And I was in charge of the educational tourist trips, stuff to like the nation's capital. And then lately I've been writing a lot more, and then traveling and presenting and getting to know a lot of amazing people within the phys ed and the health ed world.
Fantastic. Yeah. And we're honored to have both of you on. We decided we were going to do this health ed show and episode, and your two names, like, they just jumped right out to us, and we're like, yep. They're
Thanks for having us on.
And then Tanner and I honestly had to do a little bit of research on the health side of it because it's out of our comfort level, kind of, that Mel was talking about. But hopefully after today, we'll be all. Sorry, I called you. I'm not stopping and re-recording. This is like it's a good scene.
It's a good lesson for everybody.
I'm gonna get in so much trouble because I'm gonna be calling you Mel all night. Okay, here we go.
Come up with a different nickname for him.
She's probably sending me a message right now too. All right, so we're gonna jump into some questions here, and hopefully by the end of the night, we're schooled up in the health ed world. You two have been teaching health education for a number of years, and we can only imagine, because I don't really teach it, and Tanner, you don't really either, right? We're in the elementary world and haven't ever been in that setting, but I can only imagine that the questions from the time that you started till now, the topics of conversation, they had to have changed, right? Can you touch on that a little bit and how it's come from when you started to where it is now, Scott?
Yeah, for sure. And I know Melanie can probably speak to this as well, but yeah, topics change. And I think that's what the exciting part is for me about health education, or at least, part of the excitement is it's not stagnant. Everything's updating constantly, not even just year to year, but within one calendar year. We just continue to evolve. So as humans evolve, health ed evolves because health is life. And so with that comes maybe brand new topics. But the exciting part about teaching is that while those topics might end up changing and coming and going, or whatever within your community seems to be, spiking and peaking, and you need to focus on that content more. We've got amazing skill standards to go off of. So let's say that content changes slightly. We're trying to provide our students, no matter what grade level, with outstanding life skills to manage anything that comes up. So for instance, let's say in my area, we have a heroin issue, which we had for a while with substance use. Okay, so what life skill can help students navigate that tricky landscape of chemical and substance use if heroin doesn't seem to be the drug of choice in our school system in another 2 years, which is true right now. So as that kind of comes and goes, we're still working on some type of life skill to help students manage, even though that content may change. But besides that, I think health is going to continue to evolve, and that it involves a bunch of different awesome content areas that keep coming in, like for social health, it's not just communication maybe as a skill. It's how do you manage things like intolerance, or the isms out there like sexism, racism, ableism. Yeah, so we'll see things like maybe instead of the typical sex ed, but we'll see our sexuality units change for the better. We're seeing laws in place for consent. So just a couple of examples. I'm getting long-winded now, but that's the awesome part of teaching, at least for me.
Right. Yeah. And to be honest, before Melanie touches on it a little bit, I think all of what you had mentioned, because that is your passion and your field, that's what tends to make, people like me, teachers like me, when I teach elementary PE, K-5, and that's my comfort level, those are the topics that make me uncomfortable if I were to have to teach it, right? And it just is what it is.
Yeah. So, most people.
Yeah. Melanie, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I think Todd did a really good, Scott, not Todnem. We're all getting the names off wrong. I think Scott did a really good job of illustrating how it's changing and how skills-based health education allows you to weave those skills in. And it used to be that we would teach content and then try to put some skills in. Now we do skills and really kind of change up the content. But what I'm seeing in the 25 years I've been in the classroom is just the mental health of students is declining so rapidly. And so you can't just write your lesson plans, go in, your whole construct of how you're teaching, and a lot of SEL going into it, because it just takes longer to get that same information in, because you've got to make it a safe environment, and there's just so much going on. But I think just like anybody who teaches phys ed or elementary or health ed, we all have our specialties. And I know when you think of health educators, we're so comfortable in those uncomfortable topics. That's where I can't speak for Scott, but I think he seems pretty comfortable in everything he does. Those are the best lessons, because kids, those uncomfortable lessons are the ones kids really want to know about, and the engagement is much higher. So
they're going to remember that stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where having those courageous lessons where you're kind of going outside of kind of everybody's comfort level, your students are going to buy into that 100%. Yeah. Awesome.
Hey, we're going to move on. Recently, Shape America has had 3 national health phys ed teachers of the Rewind that. Get rid of the word phys ed. 3 national health teachers of the year from within like a 40-mile radius of where their schools are. How is it that Illinois is able to produce and like cultivate this for like all of our health educators here? Like, why are you guys so hot right now?
It's a secret. We can't talk about it.
All right, next question.
I don't know. I think, it's going to be like for you coaches, people that are coaches out there, this. So let's say you've got some talent within that, a team, a sport team. It brings everybody else with, I was a cross country and track runner or a coach for years. And you would see that some of the best teams would train would be amazing because of the training or because of the background, because of the practices put in. But the kids would learn from each other as well. They become students of the sport. So I guess it's just being around each other. And I think that's where you really benefit, is people that are not traveling or not making their way to workshops or conferences are missing out on just the professional development that's there, or even not just on like something simple like Twitter. You're missing out on amazing ideas and motivation. I mean, that inspiration to keep going is maybe just as good as any one lesson you can kind of grab and steal from somebody. So it's just the betterment of the teaching field in general.
Right.
Right on. I see that kind of in the phys ed side of that, where I started when I started getting more active, just being around the right people to like stoke my fire. So
yeah,
I like that.
100%. So new segment called Let's Talk Health Ed, right? See, I didn't mess that up, Tanner. You see that?
I didn't add the word phys ed into it.
Yeah. We're asking more informed health educators for question ideas, and we don't have to think as much, right? We'll be calling this segment Questions from Andy. I don't know if you guys know Andy.
Which Andy?
Which Andy you're talking about?
Andy Milne.
Andy Milne. So this is called Questions from Andy.
Okay.
And, at Andy Milne. Melanie.
Yes.
I didn't say Melanie.
You're getting so good at this.
I am getting so good at it. You are great at providing your students with choice while encouraging them to practice. Can you talk about your recent parachute project?
Oh, the parachute project actually stemmed from a very unfortunate event. It was about, I want to say 6-7 years ago. It was the first time in my career we lost a student by suicide. And it was the night before he would have been finished with school. So our seniors get done a week early. And so we were debriefing with the students, and so a kid innocently said, "Who is that?" And another kid, and I know this sounds horrible, he goes, "That little weird sad kid." And it just hit me and then the other kids were like, "Oh yeah, I know him," just by that description. And so we had this talk, and I thought, wow, having a master's in counseling but still can never wrap my head around what someone must be going through when they're at that stage of their decision making, and they must feel all alone. So I created a project where the students have to figure out who their inner circle is, everything that's positive, but also everything that really weighs them down. And then they artistically illustrate it, and somewhere on the artwork, they have to illustrate "You're never alone." So this way they have that visualization. It's not just a worksheet. They bring it alive. And I just tweeted out one last week that was very powerful. And so the students, I just want them to remember, in case they're ever in that dark, dark place, that they're never alone. There's always somebody. And I throw my own self out there and say, look, I'm here too. And it's fun and to see them kind of change their perspective on that they're stressors, that they have so much more positive than negative. So that's a good shift to see. So that's my parachute project. And that's why I named it Parachute, because you're never alone. You always have some kind of parachute.
That is an awesome project.
Yeah.
And I bet you it's making a big difference in the lives of lots of kids.
Yeah.
100%.
That's good stuff, Melanie. I learned so much from Melanie. I'm gonna tell you no. She's just, it's like, I think you're my go-to for assessments, especially, but she's got another project that other health teachers pick up on so much, is the Celebrity Death Project. And a lot of other health teachers use that and make it their own. But yeah, Melanie is an inspiration. So that parachute project is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I remember her telling me about the Celebrity Death Project. That was pretty fun to hear that. I'm sure that you're going to continue to do more cool things like that. This next one's for Scott. So this is another Andy question. You're fortunate to see your students across multiple years, being in middle school. That's 6, 7, 8. So Andy wants me to tell you, or to ask, how you foreshadow for years to come. He says you're really good at that type of stuff.
Well, I'm not sure I'm able to foreshadow what's going on, but I am able to connect the grade levels and some of the skills and content. And I really like to try and place things so that I can retrieve them in a later year, plant like a little idea and bring it back, almost like a little Easter egg, for you movie watchers out there. Yeah. And that's just something fun to keep the students interested. I think at this point, they kind of start to realize I do that, and they wonder, why I'm going to use a certain prop. And so those will kind of they'll show up again. Character names, if I'm doing scenarios. So it's not so much foreshadowing, but I've been at it long enough that I'm able to see the quarter. I have 9 weeks with the students, so I can see the quarter and where it's going to go. But then I like to connect those and bridge them together from 6th to 7th to 8th grade. Like for just a quick example, I'll take pictures of some of the projects and I'll bring those back 2 years later, so they can kind of laugh at themselves, and they have no idea that I do that. Just little tricks like that keep them interested. I feel like keeps me interested. And then if I can wrap it up like a great movie, they're pretty impressed. And so you want to have that lasting impression. So it's just little things like that create that experience for them to take in the rest of their lives.
Jason, have you ever thought 2 years ahead?
Man, I'm lucky if I'm thinking like 2 minutes ahead lately, especially. But
and
yeah,
sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Honestly, I think doing something like that sounds so cool. Like, it's got to be more rewarding too for you at the end of that 2 years, when you bring those back out and you just see the look on their faces, like, oh wow, you have this and you did it. Like, it shows just like that purpose, the teaching with purpose, right? Sure. That having that purposeful lesson rather than just, this is what we're going to do today, I hope you get something from it and leave. No, you're building that foundation.
It's not something you see in test scores, really. Right. It's just providing, like Melanie was talking about, that safe classroom. Right. Stuff like that just helps. So just be goofy with, being goofy with the kids. It just goes a long way.
Absolutely.
And I just want to throw this in about Scott, is he puts a lot of his students out there on the internet and their projects. And I am hands down impressed how he gets middle school. Like if we switched places for a day, I would just be befuddled with middle schoolers. I would probably be crying in the corner somewhere. And so that he gets them to such a maturity level. And I think, like he said, it's he goes down to their level and brings them up. And I think every health teacher has their own, we have this mutual respect in this network that we have. But I look at Scott and I try to take out what's in my personality, what I feel like I can do in my wheelhouse. But we have to remember, when we look at somebody that we admire, not everything will translate with our personality. And so, I look to Andy Horn, Andy Milne, Kimberly O'Hara, Scott, and so many other great health educators out there. But I just say, what fits me and my students, and what can I do organically? And I never try to be Scott Todnem or anybody else in my classroom. It won't work. He's the original, and I just stick to Melanie Lynch. That seems to work for me.
Yeah. Well put. I mean, I don't have any kind of witty thing to say after that. That's just so well put. So we're going to jump ahead on some of our questions, because Tanner wrote about 50 questions for this.
Yay. Hey, listen, I don't have to be at work until 6 a.m. Let's let it roll.
Yeah, but I'm getting old and I want to go to bed.
You're the youngest one here.
youngest one here, except when Tanner wears his jacket, then apparently I'm the dad on the jacket. I don't know if you've seen that on Twitter. So as a health ed teacher, do you ever find yourself wanting to eat things that you know aren't best for you? For example, like my favorite meal would be like beef ribs, steak, bacon, chicken wings, kind of all rolled into one, right? Probably terrible for me, but I could probably eat it every day. What is the meal you love and the one that you hope your students don't catch you eating because you're going to get something from them?
Well, I gave up my biggest vice in October. I gave up all caffeine because I was drinking Diet Pepsi like a fiend. And that was always oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed that I drink this much, because not only is it caffeine, but the chemicals alone would embalm a body within, like a year with the amount I was drinking. And so I went vegetarian and caffeine free, and I feel amazing. That being said, I eat really healthy now, but today I was in State College and I drove home and I was just tired from being away. I made a box of macaroni and cheese Kraft, and I ate the dang thing.
Was it
spiral? It was, do you know what? It rocked my world. But then afterwards, I felt like I'd swallowed an elephant. And I was seriously I was oh, I was making sounds. Life was great. But then it reminds you okay, maybe in another month or two, I'll pull this stunt again. But I'm at a good place right now, because I'm at an age where I wasn't sleeping and just having a lot of different things, and changing the diet has been a game changer. And that's where it stemmed from, watching Game Changer with my department, and we're all doing it as a department. So.
Oh, awesome.
But yeah. Oh, and there was that Girl Scout cookie incident last week when that damn kid sold me Girl Scout cookies. But other than that, I'm telling you, I'm clean.
You know what's crazy? No kids ever attack me at school and try to sell me stuff.
Yeah.
They either think you're so healthy or they're afraid of you. Which one is it?
I don't know. It's weird. I just want somebody to sell me Girl Scout cookies.
Honestly, we have an unwritten rule at my school, and it's when it's your birthday and you bring treats, you have to bring an extra one, because I'm right there. Hey, come on in. How about you, Scott? You making spiral macaroni and cheese, or?
Yeah, I was gonna say I have 4 kids, and I will eat their leftover mac and cheese any day. I think sometimes people think health teachers, and other teachers, other faculty do this too, that, I'll walk in and somebody's having a donut or something, and oh, sorry, it's just, I'm like
why? They're caught red-handed?
Yeah. Oh. But I have to explain to them, donuts taste delicious. Of course have a donut, eat whatever you want. Don't. So I think my, I wouldn't care if students caught me, but I love candy. So if I stop at a gas station, I'll probably pick up a candy bar every single time. Anything too. It could be Snickers, Butterfinger, $100 grand.
Oh, those are good.
So, I'm just, Halloween comes and I'm raiding my kids' plastic pumpkins, you know what I mean?
More
my trick would be to tell my youngest one that the candy is spicy, and they wouldn't like it.
You're not gonna like them.
So my youngest would be oh, Dad, it's spicy. Oh, you can have it. You can have it. It'd just be a Snickers,
So not only are you stealing candy from your kids, you're also lying to your kids. So yeah.
Yes.
I'm seeing them in a whole new light. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get it because I'm in that same boat.
Yeah.
Tanner.
So Melanie, I'm gonna get the next one. Melanie, when I was little, I used to watch roller games on TV once in a while, and I remember watching, and those teams, they would just crush each other. And then that was the time of my life where I started watching WWF too, or back when it was WWF.
Yeah.
And I was realizing, oh, that's not quite real. But then my brain automatically said, well, if that's not real, there's no way roller games is real, because they've got all this attitude, and they're it kind of looks rehearsed. You didn't really know. Then I met you, and then I was like, when you hip checked me for fun when you had that boot on, I realized, no, these ladies and these guys they're hurting each other. Like, what's going on with that? So can you kind of tell us maybe like the history of roller derby as you know it, and kind of like how it's going for you?
Oh, and we also want to know Melanie Lynch's roller derby name.
Good one.
So my roller derby name is Pinky Balboa, because I wear a lot of pink, but I hit pretty hard. That's what I'm known for, are the hits. But when I was really small, roller derby was kind of rehearsed, staged. It was bank track, and I fell in love with it. But I want to say something like in 2006 in Austin, these women needed to raise money. So they were all athletic. They played soccer in different games. And once you play basketball, soccer, or, quote, contact sports, and then you play roller derby, you realize you never played a contact sport before. And so they practiced for 6 weeks, put on an event. It was packed, sold out. And then they loved it so much. So they said, let's just do this. And I got involved almost 8 years ago. And honestly, it was a game changer, because as a teacher, all day long, people are telling us how to do our job, and we're giving our heart and soul to kids. And some kids, certain days, there's a lot of stress with that. So I found it fun just to go and knock girls right off their wheels. And I developed my whole keynote address. It's called Finding a Friend in Fear and Failure, Lessons from a Derby Girl. And I just gave it in Alabama and in Tampa. And it kind of rolls me through to say that before I played roller derby, I would say Melanie Lynch had a lot of fear. I don't want to do this. What if I fail? I don't want to, I would have just said no to the book, I would have never applied for National Teacher of the Year. I would have done none of that. And once you fall down and get up and fall down and break bones and still keep going, you're just like, the will is amazing, and you fail and you succeed. And I think I found this quote that I just put in my PowerPoint. It said, the difference between a master and a novice is a master has failed more times than a novice has even tried. So I think that's what derby is for me. It's a reminder that it's okay to fall down. It's okay to fail. Surround yourself with great people who value the journey. And so that's what derby means to me. And my number is 52, and now I am 52. So I'm like, geez, whiz, like, when am I going to give this up? When am I going to stop harassing jammers? And I'm now playing co-ed, which is so much more fun, because the guys are not as easy to move out of the way and hit. But when you do knock a guy off his wheels that weighs like 220, you're like, yes. So, but on the other hand, when they knock you in the ribs and send you flying, you're like, oh. So, but again, it goes back to just going through fear. And that has translated so well in teaching, because I'm afraid every single day, especially in phys ed. I still cry sometimes before phys ed because I'm just not sure. And I'm like, okay, if you're not crying, you're not growing. Wow. That's a Melanie Lynch quote that I just made up on the spot.
Just made it up on the spot. You heard it here first. You also heard here first that I'm proposing Melanie and Jason do a keynote together around roller derby, because back in my prime, I'm talking like, between the ages of like 14 and 17, we had a roller skating rink, and that's where we went on Friday nights. So I was pretty good at the limbo with the roller skates. So
I was worried I'd break my tailbone.
Yeah.
Can you touch your toes, Jason?
What's
that? Are
that?
you flexible? Can you touch your toes right now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
I'm doing it right now.
Is your knee bent?
It was. Nobody needed to know that. That's awesome. I love hearing those roller derby stories.
Well, you and I have to get on skates together, and I'll teach you how to fall. We'll just start hitting each other.
Like roller skates or ice skates?
Oh no, I'm useless on ice skates.
Wow.
So we could do both, and then that way we could film the segment of you on ice skates and me on ice skates, and you would be so much better. And then we'll switch it up, and we'll have a little segment.
That'd be perfect. Awesome. Okay, well, you start proposing them, and I'll just agree to it. You do. Kind of how things work around here is I have the ideas, Tanner does everything. So I just have the idea, Mel, you do everything. And
who? You mean Pinky?
Melanie. Pinky Balboa. Sorry. Pinky. You do everything. Yeah.
Okay.
kind of getting long here with our show, but we always like to ask, we always ask our teachers, they always have some sort of funny story that happened in their physical education classroom. There's gotta be a quick story that each of you can tell us about your health ed classroom that like something funny happened, something funny was said. Remember, we're a family show-ish. It's late night, but we're still family. So any kind of funny story you can share, and then kind of take us out with it. Go ahead, either.
I'm thinking.
Okay, well, I have one while Scott is thinking.
Yeah,
so at my old school, doing the condom demonstration with props, and when somebody would,
how realistic are these props?
I go back to Parks and Rec now.
They're very realistic. Let's just say they're not banana props, okay?
All right.
And when somebody would knock on the door, I would always be a Weisenheimer and like lift my hands up with whatever I had in my hands so that when the person would walk in, because my principal did that once and he just turned red and said, "I can see you're busy," and he like shuffled back out. But this particular time, the knock came on the door. And I looked at the kids and I really set myself up and I lifted my hands and I said, "Whoever this is, they're going to be very embarrassed." The door opens and I go, "Dad," it was my father. My father is super conservative. And I mean, I don't get embarrassed for anything. And I was getting blotchy and I was sounding like Porky Pig. I was like, and I was saying that my brain was like just going autopilot. "Oh my gosh, you've done this like 500 times before." And my dad thinks I walk on water and like he's my biggest fan. But afterwards, like he left before the class was over. And when I called him, I couldn't wait to call up and get validation. And right away he said, "You deserve to be fired for that lesson. That is none of your business to be teaching that. It's the parents' job." And we kept, like, he wouldn't let me get a word in. He kept saying it like, "It's the parents' job. It's the parents' job." So I finally said to him, "Dad, when did you teach me this?" And he said, "Oh, that's beside the point." I go, "No, it's exactly the point." But it was by far, I think, my most embarrassing moment in my entire life, much less just teaching, because the kids were like, "Haha, you got to do this in front of your dad." And I was just mortified. It was like, well, I don't need to go into what it was like. It was embarrassing.
Yeah. Can you top that one, Scott?
No, I don't know how to follow that one up. It's funny though, because I do tell a story in my 7th grade classes about going through health education myself and how going through sex ed in particular was kind of that time where I was quiet and reserved in class and really didn't want to say too much of anything because I knew the teacher for that year that I was in. In fact, and I embellished this story and I built it up, but I knew the teacher outside of class, and the students are like, "Oh," and I explained that I knew the teacher so well outside of class because I was related to her, my health teacher. Especially during, sex ed, to start off our unit, I explained that I didn't like to speak up because I was related to the health ed teacher. And I explained to the 7th graders that I was so related to her that I lived with her. And so I paused and I let them, the hamster wheel kind of turn and click. And some of them are like, "That's weird. Why would you live with someone?" And I'm like, connect the dots. Who do you live with? And they're like, "No, wait, it was your mom?" And I have to explain that I had my mom for sex ed in public school. She was and is an outstanding PE and health educator for decades. And she was our only option where I lived at the time. And the students just find that so horrific that I would have to learn sex ed from my mom. Basically, I have a story that kind of trumps any embarrassing story of all time. "Oh, you were embarrassed? It was awkward? Guess what? I have my mom for sex ed." But just, Melanie's story just kind of even reminded me of that. That's not an embarrassing thing that happened with the students, but to share that opens up the I've been everywhere on that spectrum. I've been the person teaching the class, and I've been the person that had mom in there, Mrs. Todnem, teaching everybody at the same time.
That is classic.
It's great. And I can go from there. It's just a great lead in because now I have the students realizing that they're not going to feel as embarrassed there's no way because I'm not their mom.
Yeah.
So wherever they have
I just remember the questions
of
yeah.
comfort, is totally fine. It's totally acceptable.
That's great perspective, Scott.
Yeah,
That is great perspective.
It's just something that they can laugh
I
at
just
me.
remember
I make
all
fun
the
of them all the time. So they get to laugh at me.
Did your friends ask her like super inappropriate questions that would make like about her experiences that would make you like plug your ears real fast? Because that's what my friends would have done.
No, because I had it good. Not everybody has a home life where you can go to mom and dad or whoever your guardians are. And I explained that is that I had that person or people, and I had that place where I could go. So nothing really was too embarrassing. But I mean, at the same time, it is mom up there. So I'm sure I was embarrassed at some point, but I don't specifically remember anything besides coming out of it and really respecting both of my parents because they were both educators. So, I just share with that you're going to find a trusted adult. It doesn't have to be a parent or guardian, but somebody to go to for the students. Maybe it's a counselor or maybe it's even me, but kind of that just little lead in, just embarrassing moments. You can laugh at yourself. You're going to be, other things that have happened are ridiculous, but those maybe aren't worth sharing because they're just too inappropriate for let's talk phys ed maybe.
Let's talk health ed.
That's right, Jason.
Tonight we're health ed.
So Tanner, you got one more thing, right? And then we'll take her out for the evening.
All right. Let me scroll. Let me see if I got a good one. Okay. How about this one? Jason and I, we were talking about cars. I got a new car this weekend, and he was telling me he leases his car, and I ended up getting a loan for my car. And then it started making me think about our profession, and wouldn't it be kind of cool if sometimes like phys ed or health ed resources, you could just lease them for a little while, so it wouldn't cost as much, and then you could return them. So like, I don't know, maybe instead of heart rate monitors, instead of $5,000, I can use them for 2 years and only cost me like, $400, but then I got to return them, but I never get to actually own them. So is there a piece of equipment or a resource that in the health ed that'd be kind of cool to lease for a little while so you don't have to pay the big money to own it, knowing that in 2 years you're gonna have to get rid of it?
I think we finally stumped our guests. We've never stumped anybody before.
We don't have heart rate. We don't have anything too expensive for like heart rate monitors, but I don't know. I wonder.
Well, I would say with heart rate monitors, we have 2 sets of polars at our school, and I would love to have a set during stress management to put just during that unit to put on them and to display on the walls, just like we do in phys ed, just to show them just the opposite. Like, look what we're doing and look how we got your heart rate back down. So I would maybe say heart rate monitors because they are really expensive, and I would only want to use them during like select days where I'd want kids to realize they have the power to get their heart rate back down.
Yeah.
I don't think
so. Polar, if you're listening, we'd like to lease for $400. That's what Tanner said. So for $400 for 2 years, we would like to lease some Polar watches.
Mention this ad. Mention.
We don't do too much with like body systems, but imagine having like a cadaver or something like that. Body organs. That's a little bit more science, but hey, I'll put that out there. Lease that.
Yeah, you're not gonna want to pay full price.
But I don't know if I have a big need for something like that, but you could find it. Could find a need. We've used pig lungs before, so.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I got.
When he mentioned that question, I don't know like what I would actually go for just in the phys ed world.
How about a car? You can lease me a car.
Yeah. For $400 for 2 years.
Honestly, I always make the joke like towards the end of the week, I'm always just like exhausted and I don't want to. I'm like, oh man, I just really want to roll the balls out and just sit there like the old school. I'm so tired, But then I think
massage chair.
What would be really awesome, honestly, like I think that I would ask to lease is like a Segway, and then I could be on a Segway and just tool around in the gym. I think that would be so cool. I don't know. That's my thing. Tanner. That's my.
I don't know. My kid leaves his ripstick at school because we can't ride it outside in the winter. He just got it. So I tried to learn how to do that. And, you know, at the end of the day, sometimes kids are doing something and I'll get the ripstick out and I'll try to make it to the middle of the gym. You know, once in a while I get there, but I'm never good at it. That's like my version of my Segway.
I used
I had
to
move a little bit more.
We have a run club every Wednesday morning, and I had my wife's bike there for like a whole school year. For whatever reason, I brought it for a student to use for whatever thing. I can't even remember, honestly. See, I said I can't even think 2 minutes ahead, let alone 2 years ahead like Scott. But I would ride my bike around in class. My principal would walk in. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing, just teaching. You know, making sure I get everywhere. You know." and then I'd ride it during run club. The students would be running, and I'd be riding my bike. They're like, "How come you're not running?" I'm like, "Well, I got kind of a bad knee, so I'm gonna ride my bike." Hey, listen, Let's Talk Health Ed was a hit, I think. It was fantastic having Melanie and Scott here. Real quick before we take off for the evening, we want you to kind of promote yourself and let everybody know, you know, how can they reach you? How can they get a hold of you? Do you have a website, you know, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want to promote? Take us on out. Melanie.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Melanie Lynch 52. I don't have a website per se, but I will be, if all goes well with the health crisis, I will be at Salt Lake City doing a session on skills-based health education for the 21st century stressed out learner. So it's all happiness, stress management, and mental health and activities of how I get them through that. I'm also presenting with the godmother of health education, Mary Connolly, basically taking lesson plans that you already have and infusing SEL into them. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. Obviously open training, going here, going there, and doing health education everywhere I can. So I've been doing the Keynote a lot and a lot of health ed sessions. So the road has been kind, and I've been just meeting a lot of great people. And I really appreciate getting to hang out with you, Jason, and Tanner, and Scott. Every time I hang out with amazing people, it's just one more little kibble of excitement and energy, and you learn something. And you and I, Jason, we do have to film that session, ice skating versus roller skating.
I was just going to say, you know, you're kind of promoting yourself there, but if anybody wants to be first on the list for the, you know, the roller skating, ice skating, tandem Keynote, let us know. Scott, how about you?
How about you, Scott?
Maybe you guys can go skates on ice. So thanks for having. I don't think we got to all your questions. I think we just talked over them, you know. So
it was fantastic.
Everything I do can be found, I suppose, through lifeisthefuture.com. I use that title as our student podcast as well. So if you're in the you know, any podcast platform, you can find our kids talking health ed and everything they've learned about life or are still in the process of learning. Life is the Future. And then, of course, you can find my Facebook or Twitter page. We do have a class YouTube channel. You know, I'm on all of it. But at Twitter, Scott Ampersand. But the website will get you to all of that stuff. So thanks so much, guys.
Awesome. Yes, thank you for joining us, everybody. And again, thank you to Melanie and Scott for the first Let's Talk Health Ed episode of Let's Talk Phys Ed. So again, thank you, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.